Hello, YouTube. Welcome to my basement. My name is That Guy Cross. This is Campaign Terrain. And for the last several weeks, I've been building a little house. Tonight, I'm going to slap some paint on it. And we'll take care of that in just a minute. And if you're new here, welcome. Glad to have you. If you've come back, this is your 100th time. Glad to have you. If you're coming back, you're one of my campaigners. Super glad to have all of you here. And I'm just going to jump straight into it today. I've taken this house and I've added a base coat to it, but that's all I've done yet is the base coat. It looks like it could actually go on the table like this, but it is not ready. It's ready. It could, but I'm going to go ahead and put some other colors of paint on it. I'm going to grab some green paint here in just a second, and then we will get down to it. I've already got some blue that I'm going to use to touch to very thinly wash the roof, so it's got a blue tint. I'm going to use the greens and some and a brown to do the stonework at the bottom. And then I'm going to do some grays and browns and various other things for various bricks of the chimney, which had a request, and we're actually going to do that to look like field stones. So that's going to have some browns and grays and such in it. I've got a gray, but let me grab a couple other colors. I'll be right back. I'm not going anywhere. You'll see me right here. Okay, let's see. I hardly ever use that green. We'll use that one. And yeah, I think for the roof, for the stones, we're going to need some darker tans and such. So let me grab one of those. This one's called, oh, that's a metallic. Let's not do that one. This one's called empty is what that one's called. Coffee bean. And that one's nutmeg. Those are both pretty dark, but one's a little redder. So I think I'm going to leave the nutmeg because that's already what color the base coat is. Oh, let's see. I guess we'll go with a little bit lighter. So we're going to grab some of this warm buff. And can use this green for, no, I don't want to do that. Okay, so browns. I'm going to make a lighter gray out of the gray I've got over there. But I'm also going to get a very light gray here called country. Don't use country gray. That one's a metallic as well. Let's see. Wow, got a bunch of metallic stuff. I never do anything metallic, really. I guess I should get on that. Dark granite. I think I'll use that as my dark gray, and I'll lighten that other gray. And yeah, that ought to do it. That ought to do it. Okay. So, sorry you had to look at my back for that long. Let me jump right in here to the right-hand cam. Okay. Now, like I said, we're going to slap a coat of paint on this. Why is it so stinking dark in here? I have a light set just like every other time. Oh, I'm pushing the wrong button. There we go. Now you should be able to see what I'm doing. One last thing to crank up the volume on here. Okay, now we can see the house. All right. Let's see, got a couple people watching. That's excellent. Hey, John McElroy's Ghost. Good to see you. Huge selfie ring. Yes, huge selfie ring. It's actually not that big if there's a camera in the middle of it, but yeah, for the camera that's on it, I mean, if there's a phone in there, but on the camera that's on it, it's yeah, it's like that big, and that camera's like this. So, all right, but you can hear me, yes? Just want to make sure that mic's working. It seems to be. I see the little doogie bob going up and down. All right, I'm going to work from the top down just in case I dribble anything and go from there. Now, let me show you what I was talking about when I first came in. I put a base coat on this, and that's it, but I specifically put it on blotchy. I didn't want there to end up being brush strokes or anything, so it's kind of painted on, like brushed on, and then I went back and splotched it. You could almost use it just like this, but I'm going to put a cream over that. That's what I forgot to get was cream. Okay, for that, I'm going to use, I want to go super light with marshmallow, or do I want to go slightly darker with mocha, with light mocha? Let's go with marshmallow. Let's go all out on making it look like a plaster house. Okay, so I want to start from the top down. That way, if anything dribbles, I can paint over it later. All right, good lighting, excellent. Yeah, it was dark when it first started, but I got it better up now. I'm not good with the English, but I got the rest of it on down. All right, so now the trick is this piece, which I specifically left blotchy, is what's called leading, and it goes at the top, and it's in ancient times or older times, it would have actually been a slab of lead. That's literally why it's called that. So I want to leave that looking leaden. So I am going to not mask it so much as grab a piece of card or something and hold it over this as I start the top of these and work my way down. I just don't want to get this part green. I'm sorry, blue. And this needs to be very, very, very watered down. So this is already a super liquidy paint. And of course it doesn't want to come out. And of course it wants to get on my table because of course it does. I specifically went out of my way to have a piece of cardboard there for the paint to go on. And where's the first drop go? Every time. This is clogged by something. Let me clean that out. But I'll go ahead and just pour that out. It's that liquidy. Okay. Wow. That is, I don't know any other way to describe that. That pink is exactly the same color as if Pepto was a blue instead of a pink. That's what that is. Okay, so if you're open. Oh, I see where it's clogged. Okay. Super fun. What'd you do? Oh, we watched him clean out nozzles. One of the great things about the acrylic paints is that when they're in the way, you just peel them off. Now, I sometimes save little bits of paint to use for like monster detritus, things that look otherworldly and all that, but I think I'm not going to bother with this tiny little bit of blue. I think that's going in the trash. Sorry about that, Mr. Blue Man. Okay, now, this is supposed to just be a very, very light wash, so I need my water. And I don't want to overdo it. I have learned from my previous mistakes, and now I'm going to use a pipette and make that about 50-50 paint and water. Not that the paint didn't already have water in it. All right. Yeah, we save everything. I have so much stuff. I have I just recently excuse me, sorry, have a other project I'm working on. If you've been on the Discord, you've seen the pictures of what I've been painting gray. And I had a bunch of gray crunchy nastiness left out of one of my bottles of the Gray Boom, and I peeled all that out, and I did save that because that's going to end up being like some kind of black pudding residue or something. I don't mean black pudding like the food. I mean black pudding like the creatures. That is still not liquidy enough. I think I am going to have to do way more water into that. So anybody else out there crafting tonight, or y'all just watching me and chilling out? I can handle it. I'll do enough crafting for both of us, I promise. You specifically, you, whomever I'm talking to, and me. Just you. You know what I mean? Both. Both. All right. Sorry about that. I on my previous mic, I used to be able to mute it when I did that, but excuse me. Can't do that with this one. So, paintbrush, dry brushing, not dry brushing, washing. Okay, you can see how liquidy this paint is. Maybe you can't, but trust me, it's barely sticking to the bristles. Now I want this top to be bluish so that when I hit it with a gray dry brush later, it comes out looking like slate. I want these shingles to look like they're made out of slate, not wood. Now, I said I was going to block that with something, and I don't have any card readily handy. Because, of course, I don't. Oh, okie dokies. Just a second. Are you card? Yeah. Nope. All right, let me go over here to my card box. It's buried under two other boxes, and I don't want to sit there and take the time to dig that up. Okay, time for Cross to just be really careful. I've got good steady hands usually, so sometimes they shake like crazy, but other times they're good. So again, I don't want to get this top piece of leading, so I'm going to start right below it. I'm going to go across just because that gives me a nice even. string of paint. Okay, this is definitely a very high pigment paint because it is not at all as wash-like as I wanted it. That'll be better. Okay, there we go. Now we're cooking with gas. I mean, it's a medieval house, so we're probably not cooking with gas, but you know what I mean. Okay, we're going to start like that. And we're going to take some water well before that dries. And, okay. All right, that looks good. Now, that is not going to dry as quick as I thought, but my heat gun's upstairs because my housemate borrowed it. And I am not prepared today. I apologize for that, but we'll get there in the end. Worst case scenario, I will just suck it up and let it dry on its own, and then we may have a second week of painting this next week. But for right now, I expect that this will dry pretty quick. I do have a fan going on over there, so all right. Nope, I did it again. I lapse into quietude when I'm concentrating. I apologize, so. All righty. We're going to use that same brush. We're going to put this paint way out of the way so I don't bump it. It'll happen anyway, but, you know, one can hope. All right, so that's that's the wash done on the roof. Now, we are going to start on the walls directly, and those are not going to be, I think that brush is going to be too big. These are not going to be, this is an actual like brushing. This is like painting. This is not a dry brush or a wash, this next one. So there we go. There's a good one. Okay. Cream. Okay, and then we are going to take a much smaller little ramekin doobop here. And some marshmallow for those. I know a lot of people like to know the colors. This blue is way out of production, but it's called Boston Blue, and it is by a company I can't see because it's got the thing right over it. I don't see a. Oh, this is by Plaid. I don't know which type of colors this is, country colors or something like that. And this is called Boston Blue. The number is 20553. That's what I use to wash the roof with. The one I'm doing now is Apple Barrel Multi-Surface, and it is called Toasted Marshmallow 21955E, not 3E. Okay. Let's see what we got going on here. Guessing the paint is still too thick. Yeah, probably. I mixed and mixed and mixed. It's super liquidy. I don't know if you can hear this, but it's super liquidy in there, but it's just a high pigment. I don't want to put water in the bottle because I don't want it, because I might need it as actual paint instead of wash sometime. So, but thanks for saying that, pointing that out, Ghost. Sim Peasant, hey Jess, how you doing? Been enjoying the thing on your channel with the what am I trying to say? Alice in Wonderland stuff. It's been amazing. Love that. Jesse's still my favorite, even though he did kind of screw you over this last round. All right, let's see. And Ghost says, I have a board to put on top of my hutch. It is very close to my ceiling fan. Yeah, I do have a table right in front of that fan in there, so I could put it in there, but then y'all would be just sitting here staring at my table with nothing on it. So this is all I've got going on tonight is this one. I don't think that's going to be enough for the whole house, but let's see. This one's not getting thinned out, so I don't have to worry about matching it. Now, I am going to blotch this on because I don't want it to look super amazing. I want it to look like it's, you know, a plaster job that's been on a while and sort of faded and all that. So I am still dripping blue paint everywhere. This stuff is, I had to water it down so much. And all righty, let's blotto some of that off. I don't know if you can see that, but it's still dripping all the way to the edges. So I'm going to Actually, this is good because this will help it dry faster. And there's still plenty of pigment on there to do the effect I was going for. So, all right, let's try this again with style and flair. All right, I probably want that a little wet, not like the other. Okay, like I said, this is not a dry brushing. This is not an overbrushing. This is a brushing. Okay, now I'm going to be try to be really can't speak. I am trying to be really careful, or I am being really careful and trying not to get any on the foam pieces where it looks like wood. However, if I do, I can always repaint those because I have more of that brown and I can always go back over the cream later. But for right now, I will try not to get it. Plus, by being delicate around these edges, it will actually leave a bit of a darker spot on that edge because I'm not getting as much paint in there. And that will work great because that's where grunge and filth and rainwater and such over the years have gotten to anyway. So that's right onto the wood, just like I said not to. All right. So yeah, Sim Peasant has her own channel, so y'all should go give that a look if you want to have some chill hangout times. Does a lot of chill games right now. Doing well, right now you may be doing SimCity stuff. I mean Sims stuff, not SimCity. But the last I saw, you were doing the not Stardew Valley, Disney something Light Valley. I'm not that familiar with them. I enjoy watching. I don't play the game, so the name is less important to me. Okay, I did get a little paint there on the stone. I don't care because I'm already painting the stone tans and greens in a minute anyway, and I'll cover that up. Now, I don't know if you can see, but from there, I know you can't, so I'm going to show you. I am blotching this on over the other blotchy, and I probably will not do a second layer of this. I may get a little better into these crevices, but I want it to look like blotchy palette plaster with the darker colors mixed in. So it is basically doing what I want right now anyway. So you can notice I'm not brushing, I'm dabbing. Not quite a stipple since I am using the side of the bristles, but it's by no means a normal brushing paint job. Now, I do want to get as close as possible to the rocks on the bottom because when this is sitting on a table and you're looking at it from the gaming, that edge is going to be really visible while the stuff around these boards is not. So I'm being more diligent at the bottom. Oh. Mrs. Lynn, hello. Glad to see you again. I am finally getting around to painting this after a little bit of a fiasco for the first 5 or 10 minutes there, but I got it figured out. Oh, man. I need better glasses. These are fine for reading, but they are not great for right up on this. And I used to, a million years ago, have one of those magnifying glasses on a stand, but lost to the mists of time with that one. Should write that into one of my games. Mystical magnifying glass. Obviously used by a wizard to write things, blah, 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 blah. Explains why it's on the strange stand and not a handheld one and all that. You can make adventures out of almost anything. I've actually been recently considering movies that are super modern or post-apocalyptic or anything like that, that could just have all the guns and cars taken out of it and be turned into medieval stuff instead. The biggest trick I'm finding is several movies. The problem is the big conflict is them trying to get or maintain fuel. And in a medieval magical world, that they don't need fuel like that. So what takes the place of that? All right. Oh, God, this stuff is just everywhere. All right, trying this again. Okay, so that end is done. That is what I'm going to leave it looking like, I think. I may come back in and do some more splotches over the middle parts, but I think that's basically done. I like it. I think I'll leave it just like that. Okay, now, all three other sides are harder than that one because I got windows, doors, window and door, and chimney. So, where do I want to start? I think I'm going to continue. I'm going to work this way because that way, after I can't hold this part anymore, I can still hold the chimney as a handle, and I can do this end last. So I'm pointing at it like y'all can see it, and I probably had that completely off camera because I'm a professional. Okay. Before I go too much further, when I built this on camera last time, I had a lot of the cardboard from the pizza box and various other things exposed underneath it and such. And just in case, I can't imagine why someone would flip over a house. But just in case, I'm not worrying about the inside. So if they get that far, that's fine. But there's always that chance that somebody's going to get down to the get their head down to table height and look up to see if they have line of sight. And so I have gone ahead and painted under the eaves and overhangs to make sure that they're brown and not, pizza box. Like I said last week, if it's worth building, it's worth overbuilding. So yes, the same is true for the painting. All right. Need to buy a heat gun. My hairdryer caught fire. Uh-oh. What'd you do to the hairdryer? Just run it too long, or it was its time and it finally just went? For the record, I have gotten several irons and hairdryers from thrift stores. I got them because I was going to make a handheld hot wire cutter, and did make a handheld hot wire cutter, and I thought it was going to take a lot more wire than it did. So I have a whole bunch left over because I got like three irons and a hairdryer. Took them all apart, and none of them cost me more than $3. So I highly suggest going to the thrift stores, seeing what you can get there. You can almost always find little household appliances like that, and they're stupid cheap. Y'all see what I did there? Got the smaller brush. I could get in this corner and then immediately trying to go across the bank. Wrong tool for the wrong job, Cross. Okay, I'm definitely not picking correctly tonight. Let's see. I need one that's a little... For those of you who don't know, the end of a paintbrush, the part where it actually applies the paint, is called the toe. And I need a fairly rigid brush with a tiny toe, with a tiny rectangular angled off toe, like come straight up and straight across, because I'm trying to get down into this little corner. And I think that's not even going to be small enough. So I think what I'm going to do is use my nasty ratty that I have used up for, oh my God, this thing's probably 35 years old. And it is beat to snot, and it's one of my favorite brushes, and it works great. It will definitely get into that corner, which of course I'm blocking because I am professional grade. Okay. I'm trying to get right into this little corner right here. There is no way I can show you that with the cameras set up I've got. I am not going to be able to paint around a camera to get something that delicate. Okay. And again, I am being way more delicate than is probably necessary, since I can repaint over anything where I go outside the lines. But, can't paint outside the lines, my 7th grade art teacher is telling me in my head. She totally wouldn't have said that. She was all about creativity. If you want to go outside the lines, you can. I don't know why I'm slandering her. She was a nice lady. Cannot for the life of me remember her name, but that's my fault, not hers. I'm just bad with names. Okay, now, problem here is I did get it on part where I only want stain and not paint. So I do want to clean off that part right there on that windowsill. I got the very bottom edge of this windowsill and a little bit on this shutter. And I want to, not. Okay. Now, I probably could do this with miniature painting brushes, but I don't typically use those. And I only found out like a week ago I even own any. I have no idea where those came from. Probably somebody went, oh, here, you can have these. I went, oh, thanks, and totally forgot about them. But I do have a very limited supply of minis painting brushes that I just don't use because that's not my thing. Though, one of these days for a certain project I've got in mind, I am going to need more critters, or, I say critters, I mean, minis, not actually critters. You have the first 4 critters videos or movies on DVD. I have not ever seen 3 and 4. I need to go watch this. I've seen 1 and 2 several times each. But I don't mean critters like that. I meant critters like creatures. All right. So since I have this brush out and I'm already using it, I am getting into all these delicate, fiddly, cornery bits. And then after that, I will go back to the big old brush. And I think I'm going to do both sides around the doors and windows before I switch back to the bigger brush. And I'm hoping y'all can see some of what I'm doing online on the camera, because I am not remembering to pay attention. I think I got the camera aligned pretty well. All right, let me get across the top of this. It's not a lintel. It's the top of a door column. Oh, it is the lintel. The sill's at the bottom. Okay, let's see. Okay, no new questions. That's all right. All right. Yeah, I really need some. I've got stronger glasses, but I need to. I just use readers because I'm farsighted. I can see down the road just fine, but I can't see the book in front of me, kind of thing. And I use readers so that I can see the up close stuff. But I have to use a little bit lighter weight ones, or lighter magnification ones, because I get them too strong to where they're actually useful for reading a book in my hands. I can't see my computer screen, so I'm constantly using lighter than I probably actually should. And for stuff like this, not helpful. Joys of being a crafter for 40-something years. You go from not knowing squat and being able to see everything and having totally steady hands to decrepit and blind by the time you figure out what you're doing. Oh, well. Got more on the window front sill. Back. Clean that off where it dries. There's a spot that I probably could fill in with some kind of putty or something, but I'm just not. I think I'm going to try to paint in it so it doesn't look so shadowy dark, but I'm not going to fill it. I'm just going to leave that as plastery. I might come in several times and just keep sticking like a drop of paint in there and hoping it fills the hole. Really want this cream on the stone, but not that upset if I get it there, because like I said, I'm going to be painting the stone with some browns and greens, and creams will be hidden. So get rid of some of it. There we go. All right. Ooh. Luckily, the way I'm having to be really careful and dab this in here is perfect for the way I'm wanting to paint this, because I want it to look modeled anyway. So, serendipity. One of my favorite words, and I hardly ever get to use it. If I recall correctly, the first place I learned the word serendipity, I'd heard it before, but the first time I really was like, okay, what does that mean? Was in a children's book. If I remember correctly, there's a sea serpent named Serendipity, and it's the character of some child's book. But I may be remembering that incorrectly. It's been a long while since I have been a child. Try to be a child at heart, but it's difficult some days. Alrighty, almost done with this little brush. I'm not modeling that as much as I mean to, so let's do that a different way. There we go. Okay, so that's all of the little junk on that side. So let's switch to this other side with the other window and door. This one, at least the window is closed, so I don't have to go around each individual shingle, so this should be a little easier. But man, oh man, I need to get into that tiny little groove, so this is going to be fun. Nobody breathe. Anybody breathes, I'll mess this up. Woo! Done. Alrighty, let's go right up to the edge of that window frame. And then this is less so across the stones. I can get that with a bigger brush. I go right across the top of the window. And it kind of rolls under. It's got a lip above it. So let's try to get all of that. Though it will blend in with the window frame, so I'm not really worried about that. Right along that edge. I got one tiny drop on the frame, on the window frame, and I don't care. I'm not bothering to pick that off. Okay, now I got to go up these two sides next to the wood, and then I'll get in here with the bigger brush again. As I said, I'm not just making long brush strokes. I'm swirling it around and squidging it in and stuff. I really am going for the modeled look on this. I'm trying to let a lot of the previous modeling from the base coat I did, where I specifically stippled it on and made sure to not leave long brush strokes. I'm trying to leave some of that coming through this paint. Again, I'm using apple barrel marshmallow. The brown that I did for the base coat is several different browns mixed, so there's no way I can give you a specific brand on those. I just tossed in whatever medium dark browns I had, added some glue, some water, and a tiny drop of Flow Aid, and went to town. The Flow Aid, for those of you who like the certain, know exactly what's being used, I use Jet Dry, the stuff that comes in a squirt bottle. It is blue. I think it is designed to put into a reservoir in your dishwasher, but I don't do that. We don't worry about that here. So wasn't very expensive. More expensive than I expected, but it was $7 or something. And will last me forever. I literally use like 2 drops at a time. I will not get my $7 worth out of that as far as volume goes, because I will never use that whole bottle. Never in a million years. All right, like I said, just trying to get delicately. I don't really need to get down by this stone. I can do that with the other brush. So let me get along this wood here. And then I'm going to hit the area right around the fireplace on the end down there with the same sort of delicate in the corner groove touch. And then I will be switching to a bigger brush for all of the rest of the goo. By goo, I mean marshmallow colored paint. I don't know why they call this marshmallow. My housemate is a pastry chef and has never made a marshmallow this color. Even her plain vanilla white ones, they are not this color. Makes a lot in like blues and pinks and stuff for holidays and various things. But anyway. All right. Let's get into the edgy trims here with this on the ends. Wow, I cannot see into that. There we go. Now this I'm less worried about because if I do get any on the chimney, I'm coming back and painting some stonework on the chimney anyway, and I can paint right over that. But I don't want any of this brown undercoat to show back in there when I'm done. So I need to kind of lead in and slide under the back of that foam chimney. For any of y'all who didn't see me put the chimney on, that's in a previous week's build. And was that only last week? Oh my God, it was only last week. So it's made of foam. Sides are made out of foam core that's been peeled. This part is made out of a piece of scrap XPS. Now XPS, the foam in foam core is XPS, but that's not what we mean when we say XPS. We mean the insulation board stuff you can get from the hardware store. This one happens to be the tealy blue color, which means this comes from Lowe's. There is a pink that also comes. There is also a pink, and it comes from Home Depot. They are about the same, so if you've only got one near you, that's fine. There are some slight differences to it, but you'd have to have access to both of them to really figure it out. All I can say is that the blue tends to be a little stiffer, and the pink is a little softer. It's easier to cut, and the pink is easier to cut, takes the texture better, but does not retain it as well. Takes it more easily, but does not retain it as well. So personally, because of the rigidity and the retention of the patterns that are pressed into it, I prefer the blue. That's teal. It's not actually blue. They used to sell a blue one. All the colors, in at least in the United States, for foams are based on trademark. They used to sell the blue company, but they don't anymore. So they've switched to one that happens to be this tealy color, almost a blue, none of which really matters. All you need to know is if you go to Lowe's to get the blue stuff, it's whatever they've got in the insulation section. In my area, it comes in 1/2 inch, allegedly. These are all metric thicknesses, but they don't tell you that because it's America. So it comes in essentially a 1/2 inch, a 3/4 inch, and a 2 inch in the area I'm in. It does come in a 3 inch and even a 4 inch in some areas, but not where I'm at, because they sell it all regionally, and it's not cold enough here to need the super duper thicky. No dummy thick foam down here in the deep south. All right, give me just a second to get 2 more lines, get around these 2 more edges here, and then I will look back up and see if anybody's talking to me in the chat. I promise I'm not ignoring you. I'm just wanting to finish this phase before I look up. I don't want to have to refocus my eyes twice. Okay. Ooh, that was a bad job, Cross. Put that right up on that wood. That's all right. You can repeat that. You can repaint that part later. Okay, now I can switch to the bigger brush. I don't want that brush. I want this brush. Dry some of that water out. Robert Evans, hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am painting a house, such as it is. For anybody just tuning in, I am painting this in a mottled splotchy look because I specifically want it to look like old wattle and daub, old plaster. And daub and plaster, not quite the same thing, but they're close enough. and I do not want like long brushstroke coverage on this. So I am specifically intentionally modeling this in as I go, mottling, not modeling, mottling. Okay. Okay. Now, Ghost, if you're still out there, I do have a recommendation on heat gun. This is not promoted. They didn't send me this. I got given this as a gift. I presume it was paid for full price. I don't know, but it was gifted to me. I have a super duper nice Black & Decker model, and it has multiple heat settings, multiple fan settings, and it has a thing at the end where when you're done with it, when you turn it to off, it has a 3-minute cool down where it just blows fan across the heating elements to cool it off, which is useful since the tip of it gets quite warm. And that is overrideable. If you don't want it to do that, you can tell it to turn off immediately, but I never do. Might as well let it cool down more safely. I, of course, don't have it here because it's that kind of night. My other housemate, not the pastry chef, the other one, borrowed it for what did he do? Something window tint on his car. That was it. Remove window tint from his car, and somehow it has not made it back downstairs yet. That is okay. I know where it's at. It's not going anywhere. All good. Okay, now I am doing what I wanted with getting it blotchy, but I think I'm overdoing it by not putting enough paint on here. I think I am probably going to have a second coat on all of these, but again, I will try to be blotchy on that when I do it. Now, one more side to do with this big brush, and then I can switch to, I want to do the roof yet? No, it's still a little damp. And when you know it, got stuff where I didn't want it. That is all right. I can come back and fix that later. What was I saying? Oh, and then I'm going to do these rocks next. And then I will do the chimney, and then I will do the roof, because by then it should be that wash I did to give it the blue tint should be dry by then. All right. I already asked this earlier, but I'm going to ask again just in case. First off, hold on. Got another little hole in the foam there. Like I said, I can fill that just by putting a bunch of paint in it, or I can come back and put drop a glue in it later and then paint back over it. But I think what I'm going to do is just try to dollop the paint in there. Now, this paint does shrink a little when it dries, so that hole may open right back up or sink in, and I may have to come back and do that again. I've also got another hole like that under this window. I think it's that window. Yep, under that window. So I'm going to have to come back and figure that out later. But that's all just finish work. That'll be super easy stuff. I will not be doing all of that on camera. I think this will be the last night on the house. I think I'm going to find something else to do for next week. As I said, I've got a challenge coming up, or I don't have. Carl Make Stuff's channel, which is called that, Carl Make Stuff. That channel, there's a challenge coming up for 2 weeks from today, 3 weeks from today, the 21st. I think 25th, 21 days from the 4th, 25th, of outside your comfort zone challenge. I don't really get outside my comfort zone. I've been crafting miniature junk for far too long, and nothing is outside of my comfort zone. But I do have some stuff that's out of my preferred to work in it zone. So, as I said earlier tonight, I think I may try to do a technological scene, like a modern looking scene. I think basically I'm just going to do like a room in a ship with a big blast door, and kind of go for that. I've got plenty of stuff I can use for industrial grading style flooring, and such things as that. Oh, I got paint everywhere on that last little thing. I got busy. I got distracted. Where's that other one? Oh, which one? Okay, we want this one. And I got paint where I shouldn't. Now, like I said, this I can paint over, so it's not really a big deal, but it's just frustrating. So we're going to put a bunch of water on that. Okay, and then we're going to take the end and little fold of this very carefully and delicately, and just kind of hope that capillaries, depending on where you learn that word, capillary actions that off of stone. But like I said, I'm going to paint right on over that with some other stuff. So, but I did mess up. And if you do, there's always a way to fix it. Never worry about it. Oh, and I got some there too. Like I said, doesn't matter. All right. I think I'm actually going to do that a little bit more, just so it comes out more even with the rest of the house. See, on the camera, I can actually see better some spots that are a little darker. And I think this end's pretty good. Yep. This side's all jacked up. I know that. So we're going to go down here. And I think that's pretty much fixed that one. A little bit over here in this corner. Okay, now, that away. This one over here. Grab another paint cup, or 2 or 3. I think what I'm going to do is grab a small piece of cardboard for that. And use that as my palette. And then I'm going to paint up these stones with some greens and grays here, and then some various tans and creams here. Let's see, what have I got for a piece of cardboard? Oh, I was looking for a piece of card earlier and couldn't find it. Now I just found a piece of card. All right, so I'm going to use this piece of card, food card, which you'll see in a moment. There we go. Use that as my paint palette. And so I'm only going to need a very few on these. All right, so I need darker gray. This one is Dark Granite 2984E by Apple Barrel, and it's what they call a multi-surface. I have no idea what that means. Outdoor, indoor, sure, okay. For all of that gaming I do outside on the porch, which is, exactly none. All right, so we want a dark gray there. And I think this is actually darker. This is actually my base coat, but I lost my train of thought there. This is my base coat, but I think it's actually darker than this one. It's this color that you can see right here. And I'm going to, excuse me, some of that here. Yeah, it's almost exactly the same color. It's just a little greener. So I think I'm going to ignore that one by itself, but I am going to get, I don't have any plain white in a small container. I've only got a big container, so I'm going to mix some of this marshmallow in with that. And that's going to make a lighter gray. And I'm going to put some over here as well. So this should end up with about 4 different shades of gray. One's already on the house, so that I want yet a different brush. I want this one. This is an actual stippling brush. It's designed to jab in rather than paint across. So I'm going to take some of this. Oh, and I said I wanted green on the bottom as well. So green, and I know I'm not going to want this lightened up, but I might want it darkened up. So I'm going to put that here. I have never used this green before ever, so experiment time. Woohoo! Apparently I have. The inside of the thing's messy, but I don't recall having ever used this. I must have used this for making a, for coloring a flock. Not of sheep, of, grass. So, I'm take some of this gray and mix that in with the green. So I can end up with a darker green over here on this side. Okay, now, and I don't care if these colors mix because I'm going over them all with a light gray dry brush later. So now I want some of that gray mixed in with some of this marshmallow. I can get a very light gray. We got that there. Then I've got this gray here, but I've already used that as my base coat, so this is going to all get mixed. So this is going to make a lighter version of that, which is a greener gray. So this is all going together because I've got greens, grays, and gray, like dark gray, light gray, light green gray, etc. So this is actually one of my least favorite things, is the mixing of the colors. Once I've got them mixed, I don't mind the painting. There we go. That is a light green gray. Okay, now take this, and the things I used as a stencil were round, and so they end up looking like cobblestones more than stacked stones. But I'm not worried about getting it exactly on the circles. I only want it near enough that it looks stony when it's done. Now, remember that all acrylic paints dry darker than they go on. So if you put it on here and it looks really garish or bright, don't worry about it. It will darken down. For some reason, I can't seem to get any green on here. There we go. And I do want to make sure to get all the way up on top of those rocks because I want this to all look like it's stacked stone for this wall. So I'm going to occasionally stick some pieces up here. Now this is the right shape and size, but it's too rigid. I actually don't want one this strong, but I don't have a stippling brush that's softer than this. I don't think. I could maybe use this one. In fact, I think I'll try that, but I'm not sure that that's going to work. Now, these I want full coverage on. So you notice I'm not actually even moistening the bristles first. I'm just going in straight in. Yeah, that's a much better control on the brush. Okay. And then this part's kind of repetitive, so this is when I start to get quiet again. So let me double check and make sure nobody in the chat there has any questions or anything. No, still hanging out there and just chilling and watching me paint, huh? That's cool. That's cool. Get a little chill vibe with the getting one of those things that needs getting done. It's not all that exciting, but when it's done, it's going to look great and worth all the effort. Trust the process, as they say. Okay. Come on. I want some more green. There we go. All right. More of the darker grays. Too much paint on there. It's not effectively darkening. There we go. A couple dollops of darker colors in there. Not darker colors. It's the same colors. Darker hues. I think that's the right word. I'm not that kind of artist. I don't know, but I think it's hue. Yeah, hue, contrast, and saturation, right? So definitely not saturation difference because that's all the same. So it's definitely not contrast. So it must be hue. Look at me, knowing a thing. Okay, that's one side. Now the trick, of course, is for Cross to not stick his fingers in that paint while he's going around the rest of the house. I don't know what the over-under is on that, but if you're betting on Cross getting paint everywhere, that's a safe way to go. I have a tendency to do that. You may lose out this time because I'm talking about it, so I'm going to be really careful. Sometimes I can forget where my hands are and stick them into wet paint. I have already done it twice tonight. Those who've been paying careful attention already know that and are snickering at me right now behind the scenes. That is okay. I don't blame you. Okay. Oh, I didn't think about just getting a lighter green. That's all right. Yep. Come across that. And we want a little darker green. Finish that up. Some of this is going to look like green stone. Some of it's going to look like moss, and it's all going to be fine at the end. That's why I'm doing the green and the dark grays on the low stone, because that way, if it does look like moss instead of stone, that's a win. Totally meant to do it. Yep, that's how I intended it. Now, the trick is do a small section, move to another section, do a small section, move back, kind of go back and forth, because if we don't, the human mind has a tendency to go for patterns. And if you just start in one area, you'll end up making it look samey the whole way across. And then it looks like, you know, the older video games where they'd put in the whole floor texture as a grid. And when you came over a hill and saw across like a valley, you could tell that the entire thing was a big, the same picture repeated for the texture, and it sort of took away the immersion of it. Yeah, I want to avoid that. That's not what I'm going for here. So I want to go back and forth and use different colors each time I go back for a new pass. And just try to avoid any patterning. I'm doing a really bad job of it this time. There we go. A little lighter colors. I'm trying to keep lighter paint on one side of my brush and darker on the other so I can flip back and forth. There we go. Okay, almost done with these stones at the bottom. One more side to go down. I think I'm going to start from the top this time because I seem to have completely missed it last time. On the other side I just did, I had to go back and touch up from there. All right. Hope this isn't too boring. I'm literally, you know, you're not quite watching paint dry, but you are watching paint. So I like to think that I'm super chill and people just here to hang out and not be stressed. But I also like to know that you're out there paying attention. Sometimes I get this whole feeling like I'm in a little world by myself. But either way, I will keep talking. I know sometimes I lapse into not speaking. Okay, it needs a little more dark down in here. And I think we'll call that done. I got a little on the wall, but that's all right. I've already decided I'm going to go back and do the walls again anyway. So, okay. Now, I know that this looks like garbage right now because it's straight colors onto there, but these are going to get a wash once it's dry. These will get a wash and then a dry brush. Those pictures will be on my Discord. This won't be dry enough tonight to do that. So right now I'm going to go back and dry brush the roof, and then I'm going to repaint the walls. And at that point, should be pretty much done with the house, except for putting a wash and then a dry brush on the bottom stone. But I'm not doing that on camera. I will be doing something else next week. It will probably be technological and modern. Like I said, I'm doing that for a challenge. All right, so this is a gray already. I think I may just try to lighten that up and use that as my dry brush. Okay, and obviously I can't use any of those as a dry brush because those are not dry. Okay, but we will. That is too much water. That's all right. Okay. Okay. I added too much white. That is fine. I can always add more gray. And this is supposed to be a fairly light dry brush anyway, but that is a little too green as well. I'm not really wanting that for the roof, so I will take some more of my, what was the base coat, and add that back in, and mix that in. Yes, that is getting down to some shades I can deal with. Now, I don't care if this is all perfectly mixed in because it's going to be a dry brush. It's just to catch the light anyway. So I need to make sure the cap's on that. Good. I need to get another piece of card because I really do need to kind of try to keep that from getting onto that leading. Let me grab another little piece of card here real quick. Now that I know where I put it. All right, now I'm just going to hold this like this while I dry brush this. I have found the best things to use for this are big honking makeup brushes. And these are from the $1.25 tree. And so these, for right now, these will cost you $1.25. I know there's some changes blowing in the wind, and I'm not getting into all that here tonight, but get them while you can. But these they wide and open. Now you can use those, or you can also use I took one of those and cut it down. So it's still the same soft bristles, but they're just packed in a little tighter so I can stipple more. And I think I'm going to use that one because it tends to give me a streakier dry brush rather than a cloudier dry brush. And I think I want that for this slate look. So now, dry brush is just like it says, use a dry brush. This has not been stuck in water. This does not have a lot of paint in it yet. It'll get a lot of paint in it. That's fine. What you do is you want to take that, and you do want to fill the bristles. So you kind of get that color in there. But then you get as much out of it as possible. And the classic method for making sure that it's little as much as you want is do it on the back of your hand. I don't know if you can see that, but there is like a gray on my hand, and that is what I'm wanting. So I'm going to start here at the top, kind of block this off, and I may have gotten that too dry a brush. There we go. Now, you don't want to get up under this. You want it to really highlight the top edges where as if light was hitting it. So that is what I'm doing here. Okay, sometimes I outsmart myself, and I just love that. This is looking amazing with this gray on top, and this very slightly greenish gray on top of the blue wash I already did underneath it. So if y'all will remember from last week, this was really weak down here, and I glued that board underneath it, and it is paying off this week on this dry brush, because I can really get in here and pound this in there without having to worry about snapping off my shingles, or in this case, they'd be slates. Okay. All right. I don't know if you can see this, but this is the blue side, and it's still dark gray like that. And this is the side with the wash. Yes, you can totally see that. Okay. This is the dry brush side, with which I'm touching with my painty hands, but that's all right. We'll take that off real quick. Don't do that. That's dumb. I told you I'd end up getting paint on stuff. I said it. I told you I would. Anybody bet on me painting something with my fingers? You just won them. You just won the money. I don't know how much you bet, but I'm not paying out. All right. So as you can see, this side looks much better than this side. Looks much, not better so much as more complete, more realistic. So that's going to be that. I don't think I'm even going to put a dark wash on that. I might, just to get into some of these recesses, but I might not. If I do, that's going to be my regular, everyday dark black wash that's literally made out of old paint water. I got that idea from a channel that hardly puts out any videos anymore, but they're called the Try Hard Boys. Or no, Try Hard Gaming, Try Hard Art, something. Try Hard. They're in my list of channels I subscribe to, and they're the ones that clued me into using the okay. One of my programs just dropped out for a second and came back. I hope y'all are still there. If it keeps doing that, don't worry about it too much. We're almost done for the night anyway. So if it keeps doing that, just know that I'll see you next week and be working on that different project. But for right now, let me finish this roof, and then I'm going to work on that chimney and paint some tans and browns on that. Now, I have been on for an hour, and I don't really like to go for more than an hour and a half. So I can call it a night now, or I can work on the chimney in front of y'all. So if anybody has any preferences, let me know. But I expect that I'm going to get offline here in a moment and leave that for next week. The chimney will be done basically like this was done, just more carefully. I'll be doing individual bricks in different colors of tans and creams to make those look like river rocks. And I will be showing the house next week, not necessarily painting on it. So if you want me to stay and paint the chimney, let me know. If not, I am basically done for now. Oh, let me dry brush these little toppers here as well. I gotta be careful here because I don't want this gray dry brush on the chimney. The chimney's gonna get a tan dry brush later. I don't know if you can see it, but that is such a beautiful slate and stone color. That's coming out so good. And the chimney as well. Wonderful. You know, every place I keep touching with my fingers, I think I'm actually making the paint job better because I'm modeling it together and stuff. But let's not get the green on the side of the house. So let's wipe that off real quick. That carefully out of the way. That into the water. Find me a fairly small brush. We'll take that one. Dry the water out. And okay, I like to see the chimney. So we are working on the chimney. Oh, I have just broken some of my things. That is not a problem. What I will do is very quickly take my white glue and squirt that up underneath there. And like I said earlier, if you break anything, if you mess anything up, if you paint over anything, it can always be fixed. You made it. So if you made it, you can fix it after you unmake it. So, wow, this whole section over here is really weak. So I'm going to squirt a bunch of white glue up under there. Not a lot. I'm using a tiny little nib thing here, so it puts out barely any glue at all, as you can see here. And so I am squirting that up under this edge as far as I think it needs to go. Press that down so the glue has grabbed everywhere. White glue shrinks when it dries, so hopefully it'll pull those down. If not, I will just put some more glue under there next time, and some more glue under there the next time, and et cetera, et cetera. And eventually, all these little suckers will stay in place. That whole row seems to have not gotten as glued as well as the others. All right, so okay, that side's got a little bit of a gap, but not enough to get the nozzle in, so I'm going to leave that alone. I have just gotten more paint on the back of my house. I told you I'm going to keep doing it. Okay. Now, I do have one tiny little spot where I need to take a bit of gray-green something and cover up one little spot where I seem to have moved a shingle and uncovered some paint. And that should be good. Glad I noticed it while I still had wet paint. I don't have to worry about that. Yep, that looks good. Well, while I've got this. Nope, that's lightning. Let's not do that. We'll hit that with the darker gray later. Okay, so that one can go away. This can go away. Chimney. I want brown. And I want a cream. This one hasn't been shaken. Now, this brown is Coffee Bean by Apple Barrel. Now, this says it's a gloss, but trust me, by the time this is all said and done, it'll be fine. 20666E. Ooh, 666. It's the Coffee Bean of the Beast. It's the Coffee Beast. So, that's that one. Oh, OBS is doing its thing again. I was just saying that I get the paints from wherever I can get them inexpensively. So I don't remember exactly which store these are from, but I know that I never pay more than about 50 cents for a bottle because I always wait for the sales. Okay, so now this is actually going to give me 5 colors because I've got the warm buff, the marshmallow, and the coffee bean, and I can mix and match between those as well. So I'm going to start with the lightest one. So let me get that out there. And let's start with the warm buff. I don't want a particularly wet brush, but it doesn't matter if it's a dry brush. And again, you don't want to get these too patterny. So work in a section, then go to a completely different section, then work to another section, and then maybe go back to the first one so that you don't get too much of a pattern. Now, on a chimney where people are stacking the stone, they may have actually gone and done that, back in the day, realistically. It's less of an issue here than it would with the stacked stone around the house.